In the journey of the coaching session, there's a hero story. The hero story belongs to the client. And the client's hero story is what we call the hero's resolve. And we see that all the time. In today's session, we're going to specialize and focus really on this particular segment on the coaching agreement at the PCC level. So this particular skill, it's for the behavioral competency known as the resolve and the belief of the client. Now, this one skill, it's going to be very, very important for you as a coach in this whole process of coaching the client. And also it's going to be one of the very distinctive point as a PCC level coach. Now, many people say, okay, I thought coaching agreement is just the outcome and the measure, but there's more than that, because outcome and measure is just establishing the coaching agreement up front. There's the other portion that happens all the way through the conversation. Coaching agreement isn't just at the start, it continues through the whole journey all the way to the end. You're having the coaching agreement all the way to the end. That's why we call it the coaching agreement. So ICF has revised in its updated core competency as established and maintains agreements. Why? Because along the way, it's not just about setting that one agreement. That agreement may change and alter depending on the direction that the client is bringing us to. So let us read this thing together. Coaching agreement, as defined by ICF, it partners with client and relevant stakeholders to create clear agreements about the coaching relationship, processes, plans, goals, and establish agreements for the overall coaching engagement as well as for those for each session. So this is very clear now. So meaning to say that every single session, there is a coaching agreement every single session. Why is that so? So that the conversation, it's more directive, so that the conversation has a certain outcome, so that the session has a certain output that the client can get. So sometimes people ask me, okay, so how does coaching produce ROI? Yes, coaching produces ROI because there's an outcome that's measurable, whether it's quantitatively or qualitatively at the end of the session. We talked about that last week, and if for those of you who missed that video, just checking them out on our YouTube channel. So that in that video, I explained about the outcome, the measures, and the importance of getting the coaching agreement. In this particular set, we're going to explore one particular skill set, which is the resolve of the client. What the client needs to believe in for them to resolve to be able to achieve the outcome, especially at the PCC level for those of you working towards PCC level. Now, for those of you working on the ACC level, this is also going to be a very important tool for you because you're going to listen beyond just what the words of the clients are saying. We're going to listen beneath that, and we're going to find the thread of congruence throughout the entire process. In the journey of the coaching session, there's a hero story. The hero story belongs to the client. And the client's hero story is what we call the hero's resolve. And we see that all the time in every show, in every TV drama series, in every Korean drama, even in animes, even in cartoons, there is a hero's resolve. The hero's story. What's the hero's story? Who's the person? Who's the hero in the story of our client? And that's our client, right? In the story of the client, they are faced with a challenge. The challenge can be internal conflict, can be negative thoughts, negative belief, inner inhibitions. Maybe they're stuck betwixt 2 or 3 things. Or maybe the client is just feeling a sense of overwhelmness. So the hero of the story is the client. However, in the story, what makes coaching conversation really, really different is this notion called resolve. Now, what's resolve? Now, let's take a look at this picture here. This is an extraction from a very famous manga, a Japanese manga called Naruto. In the story of Naruto, there was this little boy, who was born at 13 years old at the time. He was a reject. He didn't know who his parents were, and nobody liked him. He was always by himself, so he was the outcast. He couldn't fit in, and that was his story. However, what made this child very different from the rest was his resolve. In this little clip, you see this. He says this, "I'm not good at giving up." Most of us would say, "I'm about to give up. I'm just going to give up." Right now, the extension of this, this whole pandemic, I just feel like giving up. My business is affected. My life is affected. My relationship is affected. I'm just going to give up. But notice this. This character says, "I'm not good at giving up." And that was his hero's resolve. And that resolve is so important because that resolve is going to keep him and hold him true and sustain him throughout his entire journey. So whatever our clients are facing as well, this resolve is going to be very important for them to have to go through the entire journey. So along the way, As the hero progresses, one of the key thing about resolve is that the sense of no looking back, the sense of nothing's going to hold me down, nothing's going to take that away from me, the sense that I am determined now. Now knowing that nothing's holding me back, now knowing that, I'm not going to look back anymore, I'm destined for something. I'm destined to achieve that. I'm destined for greater things. Why is that so? Because in the coaching process, one of our presuppositions is this, that we believe that the client has greatness within them. We believe that all the resources the client needs is already within them. And in the process of coaching, we're facilitating that process to draw out the greatness from within from the client. And at the end of the story of Naruto, there's over 700 manga chapters. And we found this, at the end, he was the hero of the story. He became like the leader of the entire village. And he says this, I don't want to go back and think what might have been. That is a very, very interesting phrase, right? You don't want to go back and think what might have been, because many people always want to think about, okay, what might have been, right? If I was this, if I was that. No, it's not about thinking what might have been. What now? From now onwards, from now on, what is going to happen? From now on, what's going to change? From now on, what's going to happen for me? And that is the hero's resolve. And we look at this hero's resolve, and the hero of the story is our client. If you recall the video or the amazing movie called The Greatest Showman, there was this particular song called From Now On, sung by Hugh Jackman as well as his counterpart. And in this story, we hear this amazing back and forth between Zac Efron as well as Hugh Jackman. From now on, it was the resolve of two men leading two different lives and having that alignment of clarity of values and goals and outcomes together. And that resolve propelled them forward in terms of their circle's act. So the question for us is this: what is the hero's resolve in that story? What is our client's resolve? In every single coaching session, one thing I'm determined is to help the client to believe and to find that resolve within them. So why is that important? Because the resolve identify 4 areas. One is to help them to deal, for them to be able to deal with things successfully, and for them to be able to find an answer to something, answer to some clarity they're stuck with, maybe an answer to an inward struggle for them. Another is to make clear or understandable for themselves about what's happening around them or to themselves. And the fourth, it's really important to reach a firm decision about something, about their situation, about their challenge, about their performance, about where to go next. So that's the resolve. And this is really interesting because all this definition, we find them in the dictionary. However, this word resolve, we don't hear that quite a lot in our modern vernacular. But when we look deeper at it, resolve has also 3 subtle meanings. It means to decide, to determine, and to settle. Right? To decide, to determine, to settle. What am I going to settle for? Am I going to settle for less? Am I going to settle for more? What have I decided from now on to do? What am I determined to do right now? Those are the embedded language we're going to hear from the client as we go on through the coaching process. At the start of the coaching conversation, our coaching agreement, we set up the outcome, which is the what. Then we establish the measure of success, which is the why and the who, and the measure of success, the quantity measures. And throughout the conversation, the agreement will be to identify the resolve for the client, play that back for the client, so the client can begin to see and believe in themselves. So in the whole notion of resolve, there's this notion of gumption and verve. I like to say this to many of the coaches who are going for PCC MCC level. Identify and help the client realize the gumption that they ought to have. And gumption means this. Gumption means a shrewd or spirited initiative and resourcefulness. This gumption, this amazing sense of spirited and a fervent fire on the inside of them to move forward. And the verb is that vigor and the spirit of enthusiasm. This ability for them to move forward. So these 2 combinations are in essence what compels the client to move forward with a resolve. So these are a few tips for us. 5 things to notice, 5 shifts to notice as we listen for the resolve today. The first shift is tonal quality shift. You will hear the shift. Whenever someone has a resolve, they're not speaking normally. There's a raise in energy in their voice. The tonal quality shifts, the phrasing shifts, the energy shifts. The second thing that happens is the language patterns. They used to say something. Now their language becomes very clear, very precise. They're absolutely clear about where they want to go. And you see the change in their language. The third thing is the entire body language change. The whole body posture becomes something that moves forward. And the whole body language is congruent now with what they really want to, where they really want to go. The fourth shift, it's energy. Energy means the composite whole, not just enough energy, but it's exuberance, exuding out from themselves. And this energy is contagious. And oftentimes I see this in the resolve of the client, it doesn't just impact the client, it also impacts the coach, and the coach can feel and sense the energy shift. And the fifth area is the shift in thought. The shift in thought of the client. The client has now have a shift. Sometimes we call this a paradigm shift, sometimes we call this a breakthrough, sometimes we call it the seismic shift. This shift in thought can be demonstrated through the behavior of the client and how the client is exuding all the four shifts before. When we recognize all these five shifts, one of the things we are focusing on really clearly about is this thing called a thread of congruence and alignment through these shifts. There has to be congruence, or in neurolinguistic terms, you see ecology. There must be a sense of thread of congruence and alignment throughout all these things. What does it mean by that? So when we look at the tonal shift, when we look at the language pattern shift, the body language shift, the energy rises, and the thought changes, are they congruent? Are they aligned? When they're aligned, the resolve happen. You know that for sure that the client knows that he knows that it's going to get there. How does he know that he knows? That's when congruence and alignment happens with these few shifts that happens throughout the entire conversation. So the question then becomes, so as a coach, how do I pick that up? How do I sense it? How do I demonstrate that? How do I know I've achieved these behavioral markers? So let me show you. This is the practical side of things now. One of the important components of your coaching agreement behavioral marker is the coach helps the client define what the client believes they need to address or resolve in order to achieve what he, she, or they want to accomplish in the session. And there's a few criteria in this. Number one, it inquires about what issues would allow complete achievement of the goal. Number two, reflects what's hurt and the issues back to the client. Number three is explore what must be resolved for the client to reach to the goal to be achieved. So how it's demonstrated can be a few patterns like this, right? So again, whenever I give some examples, you need to realize that these examples are just examples. In the context of the conversation, the examples may change. The way you ask the question may change. The way you shift the question may change. So understand the intention of this question so they can help you to think about how you begin to ask the client to draw from the client what they believe they need to resolve or address so that they have that resolve within them to move forward. One of the examples can be like this. Would you like to explore those strategies further about finding some resolution to that conflict? Mr. Klein, I'm noticing the little, a sense of energy rising there. And as you were sharing me just now, several things begin to connect together. And would you like to explore some of those strategies further about finding some resolutions in that conflict? That's one way. You can reflect what you've heard to the client and then bring them through a resolution. Help them to clarify the beliefs that they have there. The second example can be, so what I'm hearing is this, that you would like to get back in shape and move towards your fitness goal. Is there something, or is there anything you need to resolve in yourself to help you move forward towards those goals? Is there anything that you need to resolve in yourself? Or is there anything that you need to believe? Is there anything that you need to decide in yourself right now? Is there anything you need to settle in yourself right now to move towards that goal? Another example can be, is there anything else that you will need to believe in, that you will need to determine, or that you will need to decide in to help you overcome that challenge? Another one can be, where would you like to start exploring? So this context will be when the client has shared about different beliefs that he has, different determinations that he has, and he says, hey, this is what I'm going to do, right? During this lockdown period, I'm going to focus on home exercise. I'm just going to spend 10 minutes a day, maybe doing some push-ups. I'm going to do some sit-ups. I'm going to do the challenge. I'm going to be doing this. Great, Mr. Klein. So I'm hearing all the things that you said you're determined to do. Where would you like to start exploring? I'm hearing all these different things. Where would you like to exploring? So then you begin to help the client to recalibrate again what was that resolve that allowed him to be so sharp in terms of where he wants to move forward. Now, this is going to be very important and a very, very tricky coaching agreement portion. Why is this so? Because this happens throughout the entire conversation. So it doesn't just happen up front, it happens throughout. And we pick all these things out based on the context of what is being said by the client and whether the coach picked this up throughout the whole conversation and reflects back to the client to help the client address or find the resolve in themselves to achieve the outcomes or the accomplishments that they want to achieve. So that is what it means by having this ability to help the client to find the resolve. So in the story of the client, at the end of the whole coaching conversation, it must land nicely by saying, hey, Mr. Client, so having explored all this, what has become clearer for you? What are you now determined to do? Knowing, having been through this last 30 minutes together, what are you now determined to do for yourself? That's how you could sum up towards the end. So that's the end, right? In the middle, you could be saying, "Hey, Mr. Klein, I'm sensing, I'm seeing all these things happening for you. You're looking for this, you're looking for that. So I'm just wondering, what resolution do you need to find to allow these two conflicts to come together?" That's an example of linguistics parts negotiation, something that we cover in our transformative neurolinguistics as well. How do we have parts negotiation? Two parts of him. I want to exercise, but yet I want to stay in bed. And I want to do work. So there's always conflicts within me. So, Mr. Klein, what do you need within you right now to help you get the resolution, to help you negotiate within all these pulling forces, so that you can get clear about where you want to be? So that's another example. So you can actually apply this behavior marker at the start, in the middle, and towards the end as well. And you find that this marker happens all throughout the conversation. And what must happen at the PCC level, especially, if you can demonstrate one at the start, towards as you're getting clarity for the client, somewhere in the middle you want to get something, and towards the end, that's where you want to reconfirm for the client, so that it becomes clear for him that his resolve is there. So sometimes we reflect back to the client is because the client may have the resolve, but he's not aware that he's resolved to do something. And that's something that we must resolve for ourselves to do. So think about this. This is something that you can practice today and in your sessions as well, how to apply the resolve for your client, the coaching resolve. It's going to be a very important tool as you break off your practice.